What's going on, everyone? I'm Travis Brown with the Bryan College Station Eagle. We have a Lee Enterprises group hangout here. Thanks, Lee. Our sister paper of the Opelika-Auburn News. Justin Lee and Jordan Hill are joining us. Also, we have Robert Cessna down there from the Eagle. It's going to be great times talking Texas A&M and Auburn this week in a little sister paper joint venture we like to have here. Guys, Jordan, Justin, what's going on?
Not much. Just getting ready for another big game. Looking forward to this. Will be the first time I've ever been to Kyle Field, so I'm looking forward to that.
Oh wow, cool.
It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. Well, we'll start with both of y'all from the Auburn perspective, and either one of y'all can jump in or both of y'all can jump in. What is the biggest storylines? What's the biggest thing that Auburn fans are watching this matchup coming up this weekend?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you right now. What's up, guys? How's it going? The biggest thing that Auburn fans are doing is looking ahead right now to a winner-take-all Iron Bowl. That's what everyone's looking at from the Auburn perspective, and that's what that Ole Miss win meant to them, and it's something I've been thinking about kind of all day. Is and this week I've been thinking, Auburn beat Ole Miss. When they were at home in a big game coming off of a bye, and now suddenly the shoe's on the other foot going to Texas A&M. Texas A&M is coming off of a bye hosting Auburn, and this is where me and Jordan every single week it's like we're going to learn more about this Auburn team. Auburn's crazy. We'll never know what Auburn's going to do. But every week it's like we'll learn more this week. So here we are again saying, hey, we're going to learn more this week. But yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing is, because of Texas A&M's win over Alabama, Auburn knows if Auburn goes there and wins, all it has to do is split with South Carolina and Mississippi State, just win one of those games, and the Iron Bowl could be winner take all for the SEC West, which is that's what every Auburn fan is eyeing right now.
And sort of to jump off of what Justin was just saying, I mean, everything right now seems to be trending up for Auburn. Bo is probably playing the best. Bo Nix, the quarterback's probably playing the best stretch of ball in his career. The defense, we heard, all week, and rightfully so, about the Ole Miss offense, how they're going to go for it on fourth down. Ole Miss went 1 for 4 against Auburn defense and scored the lowest amount of points since Lane Kiffin got to Oxford. Everything's trending up, and I'll ask this question to you guys. Justin also kind of hit on this as well. The shoe's sort of on the other foot for Auburn playing this Texas A&M team, who's won 3 in a row, sitting there 6-2, and obviously got that big win against Alabama. What sort of y'all's feel for this Aggies team, where it stands right now, and maybe even the energy around the team coming off of a bye week, getting ready for this Auburn game?
Cecil, I'll let you have it first.
Well, here's the deal is I think they're going to be at the best point of the season, only because since the start, this was a top 10 team going in, but all those question marks, meaning quarterback and offensive line, really slowed this team down early along with injuries. But now they've solidified their lineup. They know what their offensive line is going to be like. They're pretty excited the way they played the last 4 games. Of course, Calzada's, for good or bad, he's the quarterback. He started 6 games. I guess 5-6 games. And then you add in that they've got players that were hurt who were back, particularly at wide receiver, Lane, along with Chapman. So I think confidence-wise and health-wise, they're about the best. So when you look at this matchup, guys, that's why I think both teams have to feel real good about where they're at. You're right. A&M in an extra week, but sometimes Jimbo's lost that game coming off a bye week. And I think a lot of times if you win like Auburn didn't get any big injuries, confidence will override that open week that A&M had.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people are curious to see if the A&M team that beat Alabama is really this A&M team, or if they were more like the teams that lost to Arkansas and lost to Mississippi State, because you're not really going to glean that much against the South Carolina team and the Missouri team that are at the bottom of the conference. Those were going to be sure wins, even if it wasn't the team that showed up to Alabama and beat the Crimson Tide. So this is the first real test that A&M has had since that Alabama game. And is this A&M team really that team that beat Alabama? Because if it is, there actually could be a shot that they could push this thing to the limit. And if the Iron Bowl comes down to Auburn winning, that A&M could push into that SEC title game spot. It's fun because we're actually talking about, other than maybe on the East side, what could happen on the West side in the SEC title game. And that's something a little bit different from years past. Cease, what do you got for these guys?
Yeah, I'm interested about. I'm looking at this game. I think it's going to be decided in the trenches because I know, with Bigsby out, Auburn can run the ball. Not option quarterbacks, but dual threat quarterbacks have really given A&M problems in games they lose. You look at, they lost to Arkansas. I'm going back in past history. Dual threat quarterbacks have caused them trouble. And I feel that, A&M's strength is that defensive line. And as I mentioned, the offensive line is coming on. But when I look at this Auburn team and the outside looking in, I think they have the physicality to handle, to match themselves with A&M, whether it's running the ball or stopping the run. And then they have the veteran quarterback. I was wondering how you guys see that matchup in the trenches.
I think it'll probably decide the game, and I'll be interested to hear what Justin has to say, because you talked about the dual threat, and I feel like with Bo playing the way he is, a big part of that is that they've kind of incorporated the run, his running ability more into the game plan. The Georgia State game, they almost lost. That Bo got pulled and they put TJ Finley in for. I think he might have ran twice, and that might not have. Those two plays might not have even been design runs. They might have been scrambles. I think that Mike Bobo's kind of figured out how to best use Bo. But two, with the offensive line, it seems like things are finally trending in the right direction. That was a big concern during the 2020 season. Will Friend has gotten a lot of credit. We talked to Brandon Council, one of the starting guards after the Ole Miss win. I mean, he was giddy. He was like, I told you guys. He was like, I told you guys that we, just basically give us some time. And he talked about chemistry, that like with the pass protection, where it is right now, it's just a matter of these guys having played. A lot of those guys played together last year. And in 2020, Nick Brahms, the center was the only returning starter. So you had all those other guys trying to break in, trying to figure out how to play together. I think you're starting to see the real strides as far as that goes with that group. And then on the other side, the defensive line, I mean, Colby Wooden has been playing like a man possessed the last 2 games. So it's going back 3 weeks now. He has been named SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. He's played great. They've gotten some good production from guys like Eku Leota, TD Moultrie. So, yeah, I think that you're right to really center on the line play on both sides of the ball, because things can be really interesting. But Justin, what sort of your thoughts? And even too, going back to Bo, the way he's been running.
Well, I'll start with the offensive line has played better. If Texas A&M's strength is its defensive line, that should be a concern for Auburn. One of the things that they haven't really been able to accentuate their offensive line the way they want to. It's like a domino effect because it goes back to the receivers haven't been stepping up. So they've been playing their best receiving tight end. I mean, Auburn fired their receivers coach, 5 games into the season. That was a major problem here that has been the wide receivers. So then you don't have a fullback out there. You know what I mean? You're running your pass receiving tight end out there. So the offensive line has had a lot of struggles, but it has gotten better because they did start using Bo, which they should have been doing from the beginning of the season. But after that LSU game, you guys saw the highlight where he was scrambling around, and everyone in the country saw that highlight that night, scrambling around, throwing a miracle touchdown. After that, they've really started using his legs more. And he's had four rushing touchdowns in the last 4 games, and he had two against Ole Miss, I'm pretty sure. So I mean they're doing a much better job of using Bo, and obviously that helps your running game with Tank Bigsby, going between the tackles when you're effective. Getting creative with stuff like that. They've gotten creative using Sean Shivers out of the backfield too. So the O-line is not good. They've been better. And it's just a matter of the way they've been able to kind of help hide the weaknesses by using Bo with his legs more and, using Sean Shivers out of the backfield more. I think they're doing that, but like you said, if B-line is a strength for Texas A&M, that could pose problems for Auburn for sure.
What about guys, on the outside looking in? I always remember, Bo coming in here as a freshman, getting that big win. But then I saw some TV games when A&M wasn't playing that he just really sucked on the road, so to speak. But now I look at his stats for this year, and I'm seeing not a lot of mistakes, even though I knew early in the year, some people were saying Finley would be the quarterback maybe by the time A&M got there. But when I look at his stats, what jumps out to me, just not a lot of major mistakes, like 2 interceptions. I'm saying wow, what happened? Is that Bobo? Is that Harsin? By the way, I didn't think Harsin was a home run hire. When they hired him, I go, okay, that guy's okay. But, I thought Gus was pretty much an offensive genius. And here they're 6-2. So that's kind of a long question with about 3 prongs. But I didn't think Harsin was a home run hire, and I'm surprised at Bo Nix. And it looks like Bobo's doing a good job. So are those correct observations?
By the way, we're changing the name of this podcast to "Sucks on the Road," so to speak. So we'll move on. We'll move on from there. Y'all go ahead, guys.
Go ahead, Lee.
I was just gonna say I've got a lot of strong opinions about Bo Nix. His season this year, it really turned for him in that LSU game. You guys have got to remember, and a lot of your A&M listeners probably haven't followed how this season has gone for Auburn. That they went to Penn State and lost. Then they played Georgia State, and Bo got benched. He got pulled out of the game. Couldn't get anything going. Like I said, he had no runs. He was just trying to be a pocket passer, and it wasn't working. And then they went down to LSU, and he ran around like his hair was on fire, and it was amazing, and they won the game. And ever since then, they've really done a better job implementing him in the running game, and it's almost like they realized that week, hey, this is who Bo is. He's not going to be – we can't just trade his creativity for efficiency. We can't make him a pocket passer. We can't make him what he's not. We're going to turn him into – we're going to let him loose to be the up and down, wild man that he is. And I don't know. And my thing is, the thing that we'll never know is if they went down to LSU saying, hey, we're going to adjust our breakdowns more. Here's what you can do, Bo. We're going to let you loose. Or if Bo went down there and said, I got benched. I got nothing to lose. I'm going to run around and do what I used to do in high school. And but either way, like Jordan said earlier, this is the best stretch of his career. He played super efficient at Arkansas, and yeah, the road thing was his big, the monkey on his back, his whole career. The only win, I guess, was at Kyle Field that I would always point to say he at least did that. He at least beat Oregon at a neutral site. But yeah, there were a lot of times where he did play a lot worse on the road, like at South Carolina last year. But I think he's bucked that trend. I think he's done a good job of it this year. I don't know. What do you think, Jordan?
I'm going to jump in here real quick and say, as the papers that cover the rival teams of both Alabama and Texas, I was wondering if monkeys were going to get brought up into this podcast or not today. So anyway, go ahead, Jordan. Go ahead, Jordan.
Wow.
Now I'm just totally off kilter. Yeah. Totally off kilter. No, I think Justin hit the biggest thing. I think with Bo, you hear with him that he always says he's a competitor. And, that's a little bit of coach speak. His dad's Patrick Nix, played at Auburn, longtime high school coach, college coach. But I really think that week that he got benched, I do kind of think it lit a fire under him. And I think whatever it was that made him decide, he was going to step it up, or, if he and the coaches kind of got on the same wavelength of what they needed to do to work, it's worked. I mean, he has figured things out. I wanted to answer Robert's question about Brian Harsin. I thought that, and I think Justin came up with this headline when he was hired. The headline we ran was out of the blue, since he was from Boise.
Oh, that's good.
I think that was Justin. So.
Hey, that's a home run, man. Wow.
But that's how it felt. I mean, and Justin could probably speak to this too, but I hadn't really heard any kind of rumblings about, Brian Harsin. It was clear that the search was taking a while, and there were names that got hot and they got cold, and then heard about them, then you didn't hear about them. But, a lot of credit to Brian Harsin with the questions that have been around him and the uncertainty and the fact he's never coached in the SEC. There was a lot of what I think would be called, justifiable, I guess concern would maybe be the best word to use, especially in his first year. How was he going to fit? How was he going to step in? to an Auburn team that, has been on the cusp of, going back to the SEC championship since 2017, who just 2 years ago beat Alabama and Jordan Hare. This wasn't like a total rebuild, and you're hiring a guy that had never coached in the Southeast outside of a couple of years at Texas. But so far, he's done a really good job. I think that there were some definite growing pains early on, and that Georgia State game, I think had they lost that game, the conversations we would be having right now is like a 180. I mean, that we talked about it after the fact. That could have been the worst loss in Auburn program history. And now you're talking about a team that is on the cusp of maybe, playing for the SEC West, and at the very least stands right now number 12 in the nation. I mean, it's just wild. And again, I think a lot of credit goes to how Harsin has managed things, and we'll see if they're able to keep that up.
There's a consistency that he seems to bring, and that'll be big. That'll be what I'm looking for this week. Is like, don't get too high after beating Ole Miss, because ultimately you should have won that game anyway, right? And then go messing around losing to Texas A&M. He preaches this consistency. He preaches this 1-0 mentality thing. It's boring, but it is what it is. And, sometimes you need to be boring. And I think this is a big week where he could prove that mentality, that 1-0 thing, all that coach speak really pays off. I think his whole thing is interesting. Like the path, you see the path. The idea is, here's this guy, at Boise State who turned 3 stars into 5 stars, right? Okay, we need you to come to Auburn and turn 4 stars into 6 stars, because you're trapped between Alabama and Georgia. So it wasn't just the trendy ex-Alabama assistant, that they hired. They went and they did something else. They went and did something else. And so you're seeing it here. We'll see how recruiting goes eventually. That's obviously, I used to think that 99% of college football is recruiting, and now I think 100% of college football is recruiting. So we'll see how recruiting goes. But here you go, Travis. How about this? If Brian wins this Saturday, he'll have top 15 wins over Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M, and you could call him the poll assassin. How about that?
Oh no!
Oh no!
I want to ask, but
how long were you sitting on that? Were you was that?
I said 3 straight wins over teams in the top 15 in the poll. What else?
That might be the headline we run.
Yeah.
I'll go Jimbo. Auburn's just a faceless team. They're all faceless, nameless. We just go out. We got to worry about us. We can't worry about the opposition. Auburn is faceless and nameless, and they got a nameless coach. So you should great.
After this podcast, I don't know if I should have put our corporate name at the beginning of it. I don't know if that's going to come up on some algorithm or
there could be a lot of openings in Lee Associates for sports people.
At Auburn and Bryan College.
Bryan College Station.
So guys, what else y'all need to know about Texas A&M and what's coming up for this game?
Two questions for you guys. You mentioned Zach Calzada. Just tell me a little bit about your impressions of him, and then off of that, just looking at this Auburn matchup, sort of your expectations, and if you guys feel like making predictions, have at it.
Yeah, I'll start. Zach Calzada is certainly a guy that's grown into the position. I think that by the second game, by the Mississippi State game, where he takes a safety at the end of the game when they have a chance to actually come down and have the ball at the end of the game, fans were calling for Boast, the walk-on backup quarterback, just to kind of be like, what the heck, let's see what he's got. Then he goes out and beats Alabama in almost a nearly spotless game. I mean, he went 10 for 10 to start the game, and the only incomplete pass he had was actually the interception there at the end of the first half. Was really, really good, and kind of everybody jumped on board. In the last 2 games, it's been a little bit of a mixed bag. I know during Missouri, they wanted to throw the ball out to the flat a lot in screens and little wheel routes, and he's a guy who has an absolute cannon of an arm, but he'll use that cannon at short range and long range, and he just learning that touch. Even Jalen Weidermeyer, A&M's tight end, said the one thing he'd like to see him improve on a little bit is having those touch passes, whether that is a little bit of a fade or it is getting it over the defensive end into the flat. And so I think with the defensive line that A&M is facing this week in Auburn, and at times the offensive line has had trouble getting a push for A&M's running backs to get a little bit of space to run in, they might try to utilize some of those passes to the flats. And if he still is throwing it right into the hands of the defensive end or trying to take his head off with a 98-mile-per-hour fastball, it might not go so well, and it might look like some of the stop and start that they had against Missouri in the passing game. Of course, they could just run the ball the entire game and probably could have won that game hands down. I think along with the team, because this team has gone the way of the quarterback this year, if Zach Calzada is more like the guy that beat Alabama, I mean, the sky's the limit for A&M. If he's the guy more like that lost to Mississippi State and lost to Arkansas and struggled with consistency, struggled with accuracy, then I think it's going to be a tough one for A&M. Cease, what do you think?
I think it's a big point moving forward when you consider that he's going to go against Bo Nix and Matt Corral, whatever the hell his name is, in the next couple of years. But then when you consider that he's still going to have to make 4 or 5 plays probably for A&M to win these next 2 games. So I thought he overachieved against Alabama, and let's be honest, against Missouri and South Carolina, Travis could have quarterbacked and they'd have won by double digits. So I think this is really a telling time for Zach Calzada. He doesn't have to win the game, but he can't lose the game. And he's stared down some receivers, led to interceptions. He's missed guys. He throws the ball too hard. It might bounce off at the wrong time. So he's got a great running game. He's got all his wide receivers back. A&M's defense is playing well. So it's not so much, I think Calzada has to win the game. He can't lose the game. So I think a lot of things, I'm looking at the line of scrimmages. I think that's huge. I think Calzada is huge because I think you got to give Auburn a check with Nix. He's won here. See what happens. I will go with the home field, 4.5. I think this is a field goal game going in. The more I study it, just because there's enough going on both sides for these teams to really be ready to play this game. And in that instance, I'll go with the home team.
Yeah, and the other thing to point out that Cease did kind of point out is that this is one of the first games really all season that they've been 100% healthy. They lost almost all of their starting wide receiver core early on. Hez Jones isn't going to come back, but they got Caleb Chapman back, who's kind of their deep threat. Anaya Smith has been there, but Chase Lane was out 2 games, one of their veteran receivers. And so there was some growing pains with putting Damon Demas, a young guy in there, and Moose Muhammad, and who else? Jalen Preston is like on and off guy that's been done pretty well, but he kind of had to shake the rust off, it seemed like, a little bit. Now they're going to have Chapman back. They're going to have Chase Lane back. Anaya Smith is going to be able to run his kind of normal slot type stuff. And then they have some guys now with experience in Demas and Jalen Preston that'll be able to slot in there at times. It'll be interesting to see how having that full wide receiver core back healthy 100% with 2 weeks of practice under their belt will do for them. I think that with them being healthy, I think A&M, I'll take A&M by a touchdown. I think it's still going to be close, but I think Seth Small will get the week off this week as far as game-winning field goals goes, and it'll be by touchdown. What do you guys have?
I've kind of gone back and forth, but I feel like I've done that pretty much. It goes back to what Justin was saying, how every week we go, we'll learn a little bit more about this team. I'm giving the edge to Auburn. I think my pick was 24-19 in the paper that'll come out later. I don't know. I just have a feeling that they've kind of got a little momentum. I think that Ole Miss win, especially for the defense. I mean, the Ole Miss had so many opportunities to strike, and the Auburn defense did a really good job slowing them down. So I think it's going to be a very close game. Again, I wouldn't be surprised if A&M, especially being at home, could get the edge. But I just think that Auburn seems to have gotten things figured out, has a little bit of momentum, is feeling good. And Bo Nix is playing his best ball. So I'm going to give the edge to Auburn, but I think it's going to be a really exciting game.
Is it going to be chalk with you, Justin?
Well, I keep going back and forth, and of course, because it's Auburn, it's chaos. That's the nature of the business. So last week when Auburn hosted Ole Miss, everyone wanted to pick Ole Miss because of their offense, everything else. And I certainly did, but I thought, man, Auburn at home at night, coming off of a bye, should not lose to Mississippi schools. They should win this game. They should hold serve. And now I really want to pick A&M at home, coming off of a bye. To hold serve. But then I got two reasons. One, it's at 2:30. I'd love to hear what you guys think about what the energy in the atmosphere would be. But then the other thing is the road team always wins this game. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why. So I think I will pick Auburn 27-21 or something. But I do want to know, do you guys guys think it'll be electric? Like, what do you guys think the environment will be? Is everyone back on board, after that Alabama win, and just what do you think it'll be like?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is some level of, especially with the students having missed out some on last year with the COVID season and restrictions and things like that. I mean, you look at they were in the middle of losing to Mississippi State and taking safety sacks at the end of the game, and they already had people lined up pitching tents during the game for the next week's ticket pull for Alabama. The crowd has been great at Kyle Field this year. And that's why I think it's a little bit cliche to say the 12th man and they're going to be great and strong and everything. But I think actually, and Cease, you've been around a lot longer. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong this, but I think the crowd has had more of an effect on the game this season than in any of the 5 that I've been covering A&M, just because I think there is a little bit of that desire of what they missed out on last year with it being smaller crowds. What do you think?
Yeah, here's the deal is I asked Damani Richardson, he'd rather play at 2:30 or 6. He said he'd much rather play at 6. And I think there's no doubt players like playing at night. They get jacked up for that. Fans do. So I think Auburn catches a little break that it's not a 6 o'clock game. That being said is all you got to remember when A&M played their 2:30 game last year against Florida and 25,000 was here. Dan Mullen, who might not be the coach that's much longer in Florida, said, it sounded like there had to be 50,000 people there. So that's how much the crowd is into it. So A&M will definitely have the home field advantage, but we've seen this before. The thing I'm always amazed at is if the other team does something, you can make, I don't care how your home field advantage is, if you make plays, you put the other crowd quiet. You can quiet the other crowd. And I can remember, Travis is right, the Alabama game was absolutely one of the top probably 4 atmospheres, in my time in the last, 20, 30 years. I can remember. I can't remember farther back than that, even though I was here. So the crowd will be an advantage, but not what it's would. And let's be honest, if you look at the media coverage, this is dead even. I mean, you just got 2 great sports.
I mean, as the only AP top, I don't think neither one of y'all have an AP top 25 vote, right?
Hey, easy,
oh, you do?
Easy.
Oh, so we actually have
do.
2. We have 2
Yes.
poll assassins on this podcast.
Travis didn't do his homework.
Yeah, sorry. There you go. Well, for me and Robert Cessna, for those of you watching on the Auburn paper website, you can find our stuff at theeagle.com and click the little Aggie Sports link and you'll find everything from the A&M perspective. Robert tweets from @Aggie_sports. I'm @Travis_L_Brown. And for our readers, Justin and Jordan, where can they find your stuff?
Yeah, go to oanow.com and @AUblog on Twitter. And I'm @JordanDavisHill on Twitter. Lee, hit me up with your Twitter username. I can't remember.
It's by Justin Lee, like a byline. BY Justin Lee. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've been blocked. I think I've been blocked like the rest of Auburn.
Jordan Halloween. Is that still the?
No, since we're past Halloween, we're back to Davis Hill.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll have something cooking for Christmas.
There you go. There you go.
Don't follow me.
Well, big thanks.
My Twitter's just follow Travis.
Yeah. Well, actually, so someone I got sent a link. Someone from the Big 12, one of our buddies, they had a student who was compiling information for AP top 25 voters, and they said Robert Cessna had your email, and then it literally just listed my Twitter account for you. because I am just your secretary and voice. So that's apparently what is happening there. But anyway, hey, thanks so much for joining us, Jordan and Justin. Thanks so much for watching on whatever website you're watching on in the Lee Enterprise Network. And if you're watching on our site, we'll see you next week. And I'm sure these guys will see the Auburn fans next week as well. Thanks so much, everybody.